no problem. You know, if they get traumatized on their own time, hey, that's
Yeah.
that
And
lesson
then
learned, right?
in like 20 years later, they're gonna make a podcast about it.
All right, so Hater, you
All
had
right.
mentioned like urban legends and stuff, and we brought up
Yeah. Uh,
La Mano
the only reason I
Pachona.
brought it up, yeah, the only reason I brought it up again was kind of like to kind of explain a little bit about what copypastas are or creepypastas are. Like, in my opinion, they're kind of like the internet urban legends, and I think we talked about it like while we were texting. Um, the first one that I remember ever hearing about, I don't know if you guys have heard it since you guys also played Legend of Zelda. It was Ben Drowned, the Majora's Mask
Yeah.
one,
Mm, yeah.
about
Mm-hmm.
some little kid that supposedly drowned and he's haunting the game and all of that. I don't know the exact story, so I don't know if Juan, you want to take it away with the actual like creepypasta.
Oh man, that one. I mean, that story is like 10 pages long. It is like some of these stories like really are like novels. They're incredibly long, and I think the like I mean you got the main gist of it that it is, you know, one of the more famous like haunted cartridges, you know, cuz that's kind of like a stereotype now with these like stories that oh, you buy it at a flea market and it's haunted by the previous owner, and it's like yeah, it's a trope, but I do think this is the one that made it famous because yeah, it was bought at like a flea market from some weird guy. And then when the kid finds out like it's haunted, he tries to give it back and the guy isn't there anymore. And they keep referring the in-game characters keep referring to Link cuz you can change the name in the when you start a file. It doesn't matter what you put. They always refer to him as Ben. And there are character models that are showing up where they're not supposed to and stuff like that. And I remember someone basically like got like an emulator of Majora's Mask and they modified the game so that it can kind of resemble what it's supposed to look like in the story based on like actual like assets in the game. And we mentioned this in the video game episode that you know Majora's Mask is a creepy game as it is.
Yeah.
So it's not that hard to make it like scary, you know, especially when you attach this story to it of like you know this kid that owned it like died and stuff like that. And so I remember seeing some of the YouTube videos on it, and the YouTube videos are also like really long. And I think like after you watch a minute of it, it's like you kind of get the gist of it, you
Mhm.
know. And it really was like kind of creepy, especially because they are using like actual stuff from the game. Like it's not like they hacked it to add stuff that isn't in there. Like no, they're using actual stuff. Like for some of the jump scares in the video, they would use like the scream, the actual scream you hear in the game when you see like the zombies, the mummies that are like underground. When you look at them, you hear this yell like ah,
Mhm.
or they would use that actual sound effect, and they would use the. I think it's I don't I haven't played Majora's Mask in a while, but you would leave like a dummy version of yourself. I don't know if it was so
Yeah.
you could teleport there back,
Yeah, something like that.
and it was just like yeah, and so it's like this creepy like puppet figure of Link, and so they would use that to represent the kid Ben.
Mm.
And again, all of this is in the actual game. They
Mhm.
just recontextualized it and somehow made it creepier
Yeah.
by attaching this story to it. But that's more or less the gist of Ben Drowned. Again, it's a very long story, one that I don't even think I finished reading it because I'm like, all right, you know what? I could be reading an actual book at this
Yeah.
point. um, but yeah, I mean, there was a like I mean, there's a whole bunch of these, but I mean, I feel like if we're just gonna go over the like some of the more famous ones, there. I mean, I guess I could jump into my personal favorite if you guys don't mind,
Yeah,
unless
go
you
for it.
guys want
Go for
to.
it.
All right, so my personal favorite is a creepypasta called Candle Cove.
Okay.
I don't know if it rings any bells or if you
I've
guys
never
remember
heard of
this
No.
it.
one. All right, so I think this is one of the better ones, just in terms of like the way it's written is creative. It's written as if it's like you're on a message board and everybody's replying to like the thread.
Okay.
And so that's basically the story. You're reading people's posts on a message board, and that's how the story is told. And it's basically like someone started the thread saying like, "Hey, does anyone remember this old show called Candle Cove? It used to air on this channel, you know, around this time frame. It had like these puppets and whatnot." And then you had other people replying like, "Oh my god, yes, I remember that show. I thought I was the only one." And then another person like, "Yeah, I remember I would bring it up at school." And everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" And it's like, "No, it's nice to see other people remember." And they're like, "Yeah, God, like, you know, this show was so cool. Remember this, remember that." And then they kind of go like, "You know, there were some weird moments in that show." And they're remembering like, even though it's like a kid's show, there were like some creepy parts like to it
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. And little by little they're remembering it, but they can't, like, no one else seems to know about it and whatnot. And then that's when like the big reveal at the end of the story is that one of the people on the message boards like visits their mother, and they're like, "Hey mom, do you have like any other recordings of like when I would watch like Candle Cove as a kid?" And the mom like kind of like freaks out and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "It's just I remember when you were a kid." Oh, we lost Ader.
Yeah. But continue.
But the mom looks at him and says like, "Well, it's weird because when you were a kid, you would tell me like, 'Hey, mommy, I'm gonna go watch Candle
Hello?
Cove,' and then you would turn the TV on to static, and then you would just sit down and watch it." And that's the story, and it's kind of like, "Oh shit! All right,
Yeah.
okay." And apparently, I'm not the only one that thought this story was good because this story actually got picked up by Sci-Fi and they turned it
Mm.
into a show called Channel Zero.
Oh, okay.
Um, I I haven't seen it though, but to my understanding, it's kind of like a collection of like horror stories, like an
Yeah.
anthology show.
Mm-hmm.
Like each episode's like a different story, and there's one of them that's dedicated to this story, to the creepypasta Candle Cove. There, as far as I can tell, there's only like some slight changes, which is makes sense. You know, you got to
Yeah.
turn it into a show. But I know one of the bigger changes is that they changed the name of one of the characters, and I'm okay with that because I do think if you're trying to sell the idea that this is a kid show, I don't think you can name a character the Skin Taker or whatever the hell his name was in the
Mm.
creepypasta.
Yeah.
Like no one would buy that if
Mm-hmm.
in an actual kid show. So I think that was a better idea to change it. But again, it's a shame. Like yes, I'm all here. Like yes, I love this story, but I never watched the show uh, that was inspired by this
Mm-hmm.
online story. But
And
I don't know.
I was gonna say how like of course our generation came up with this like creepy pastas because we grew up watching fucking Goosebumps and like
Yeah,
fucking the Twilight Zone and then like what other shows that we used to watch that
are
were
you afraid
like
of the dark?
Are You Afraid of the Dark? Yeah. So I mean, no wonder we grew up and we were like, "Hey, I want to write something like that."
Yeah,
Some of
and it's funny because those are all like
I don't know if I don't know if you remember the show Fact or Fiction, but some of the times that show got dark. So like a
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
combination of all of that shit, like just basically imbued creepy pastas.
What was the
Mhm.
show with the fucking like a skeleton that was
Oh,
like telling stories?
Oh,
Like
the
he will
Tales from the
present the
Crypt.
stories. Oh yeah, that one.
Tales from the
Tales
Crypt.
from the
That's right.
Crypt. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Like I mean, all of this was like what, like around the '90s, early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense that we would
Mm-hmm.
grow up with all this stuff. And I mean, most of the ones we named are actual kids shows. Like I don't think Tales from the Crypt is a kids show because it was on HBO. Um, but all the rest of them are, and it
Mm-hmm.
is kind of, you kind of just boil back to like, is it like okay to like scare children or show like horror to children?
But again, we were saying about how our parents used to tell us these stories, so we will like
Hmm.
behave. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
of course they will like let us watch
Mm-hmm.
this show, so we will go to bed right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, personally, I don't mind it.
Yeah.
It's like, but I'm saying like they can watch Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark, and stuff like that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying, show them Rob Zombie's Halloween when he's 7, okay? Like that's not what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Even though they might watch it by themselves.
I mean, they'll watch it on their own, but I mean,
Yeah.
hey, that's the kids' problem, If they get traumatized on their own time, hey, that's
Yeah.
that
And
lesson
then
learned, right?
in like 20 years later, they're gonna make a podcast about
I don't know if you remember the Tradition podcast. That was scary enough as it was.
it.
It's like you told me you would watch the Tradition podcast, but then I would watch, and you were just watching static on YouTube.
Just static.
Oh man, but I don't know. Any of you guys got a
Do
story
you
or
guys
something?
remember? Do you guys remember the TV show Freddy's Nightmares? Like that Nightmare on Elm Street. It was kind of like Tales
No.
from the Crypt. Ah, shit! I
No.
think I was watching
No.
Static then.
You're the guy from the story.
Yep.
No, it was kind of like a
uh,
ripoff of Tales from the Crypt. But I
oh, okay,
think it
okay.
was geared like towards kids as well, which is kind of weird
Hmm.
to like have little kids be watching Freddy Krueger.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those movies they used to air like during the day when you were home on a Saturday. So
Yeah.
like everyone was watching those movies, even though I
Hmm.
mean, to be honest, they were like some of the scenes were like pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the TV does cut out like some stuff, but not
Yeah,
the whole
but
thing.
not the whole thing.
Like so. Because I know my cousin, like his kids, like he's got like 4 kids, and I think the oldest one is like around 11, somewhere around there, and all of them for the most part are into like horror movies. They know who Jason is, they know who Michael Myers is, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I do think to an extent, like yeah, it's like no, these kids are gonna find it like on their own,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on
yeah,
them if they get freaked out by it, and decide like, oh, I want to keep watching this, or if they're
Mm-hmm.
like, no, like I'm gonna back away from this. And I do think a lot of it has to do with you have Five Nights at Freddy's, which is essentially a horror game,
Mm-hmm.
but it's mostly geared towards kids because it like there's no blood, there's no gore in it at all. It really is just these haunted animatronics.
Yeah.
So there's really
jump
nothing
scare
R
after jump
rated
scare.
about it. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you have stuff like like Five Nights at Freddy's, Hello Neighbor, which they're creepy, and they're like, a kid can play them, and there's nothing wrong with it. And so I do think like whereas we had stuff like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark that got us into horror, I think now these kids, Five Nights at Freddy's is getting up into horror, and it I don't know. I guess it's just we grew up with creepypastas and stuff. These kids are growing up with Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. I mean, to
And
be honest, like if that game came out when I was like a child, I don't know if I would have played it because I mean that game's scary. It's the expectation of something happening that just fucking kills me.
yeah.
Because I played like a few times and damn, like I get stressed with that fucking game.
Yeah.
Well,
It,
I
I
played
mean, I
when I was
was.
a kid Resident Evil, and that fucking scared me. Like I didn't pick it up until I
Yeah.
was like way older afterwards.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I remember like the I hated playing underwater levels in Sonic the Hedgehog because when the song plays when you're like drowning would like scare the shit out of me as a kid. So I like to think that it's like if that fucking song scared me when I was 8 and I'm playing Sonic the Hedgehog, a game that is quite literally on the opposite end of horror.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Five Nights at Freddy's would probably get to 8-year-old me
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny
as
how like
well.
those like the music from games for those like situations they were scary as shit. And like now
Yeah,
that I'm like old, and I'm still playing like games like Breath of the Wild. When you find what are they called? The fucking the one that has like a little
the
arms.
Guardians.
Oh,
Um,
the
the
Guardians, yeah.
Guardians. Yeah. So when you see them, or even if you don't see them, is if you're close enough to them, you start hearing that fucking song. You get straight like my
Yeah.
fucking heart starts like beating fast as shit.
Yeah,
Was I mean to Juan's defense, like I still remember that like underwater like that you're gonna drown like the and it just keeps on going faster and faster. And you
Yeah.
just see
yeah,
Sonic
it just
drown.
stresses you out. Right. Uh, I know another one that would like creep me out, especially the first time I played it because I wasn't expecting it. Was Banjo Kazooie on the 64. When you get to that beach level, like, well, it's a beach. You jump in the ocean, and then a shark comes out, and you hear like a knockoff version of the Jaws theme, and this shark
Mm.
just appears. Scared the shit out of me. So, so there's even horror in non-horror games. What the hell?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's everywhere. I don't know. I guess just to bring it back to the creepy pastas. I feel like a lot of some of these, the pictures that go along with it are sometimes a little bit more famous than the actual
Yeah.
stories. Uh, I think one of the more famous ones is that Jeff the Killer photo. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
even
No.
know what I'm talking about.
Let me Google it.
It's a it's a creepy picture of just some guy with like a white face and a creepy smile and like cat
Oh,
eyes.
okay. Yeah. Hmm.
And yeah,
But
and so that
isn't
one's a
this one,
creepy pasta,
or is it
but that
similar to
photo is
the
more
one?
famous than the actual story because the actual story sucks.
Is this the one that, or is it a different one that a lot of parents were like complaining because there was a time where um videos for kids like somewhere around the middle they would show the picture of like a creepy motherfucker. Is it that one?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I
No.
know who you're talking
I
about.
think it's the
Is
same
it
No,
picture.
similar?
it
But I mean there was also
kind of
Momo,
like
but that one played during Peppa Pig.
yeah, that's the one that
Oh, that
Rene's talking
one.
about.
Yeah.
It's Momo, the
Momo.
Momo challenge or whatever the fuck.
Oh, okay. Oh no, that's
Um,
way creepier.
yeah, that the Momo one's a
I remember
statue.
yeah. I
But
remember
what do you mean a statue?
just a
Like,
little off track. I remember watching like this funny Momo challenge one where like they were playing it in Peppa Pig and
Mm-hmm.
it was in Spanish. So Momo was all like, dile a tu papá que te pase el toque. Fúmatelo todo.
Like those fucking videos like back in the day, like Killer Pollo and like shit. I would start talking
oh
about
my
drugs and shit.
god,
Yeah.
I remember, dude. You took me back when you said that
Yeah.
one. Holy shit, I remember that.
back in the day of like those flash animation
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah.
Um, and now they're saying about the like the pictures being like the scary part of it. Um,
Mm,
I remember also I don't know if they're considered creepypastas. The SCP Foundation.
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Because I know that's like an actual website. I mean, they made the website,
Hmm.
and it's like a Wikipedia where you can go and see, and then read about the different creatures or monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
Cryptids.
back in the day when I don't know how I found the link. Like the first few minutes, I was like, "Is this for real?" Because they made it look pretty like professional. And I was
Yeah.
like, "Is this for real? Is the government hiding something?" But no,
I, I think that's like the
I
best
mean they
part
are.
about SCP is that
Hmm.
yeah, like it's almost kind of like when the Blair Witch Project first came
Hmm.
out back in the
Yeah,
day.
Yeah.
A lot of the selling point was you
yeah,
watching it and just going, "Wait, is this real? Like,
yeah.
did this happen?" And I feel like with SCP, it's in a very similar spot where it's interesting because you are just like, is this like legit? Is this
Yeah.
real?
Yeah.
And I do think SCP counts as creepypasta because it is essentially different people writing the like these entries.
And I remember because I think it was in this year or last year that I saw the news about they had to take down one of the like the entries
Mm-hmm.
because the picture that they used for the creature or monster, it was an actual I don't know if it was a painting or it was just like a statue or a model that an artist created, and then they
Yeah,
used it because it looked creepy as fuck, and they used it and they put like a story behind it. They gave it like powers or whatever, but they had to take it
yeah,
down, and now I'm looking for it. It's the SCP-173. Bro, that
yeah.
picture
I
is
just
fucking
googled it. Also,
creepy as
yeah.
fuck, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the first one that I saw, and I was like, holy shit, is that for real?
I I think that's like the entry one for a lot of people because that was the entry one
Mm,
for me as well, and I think it's because that one really is one of the better
yeah.
like creatures,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
so because of that, I mean, it's so easy to share. And then yeah, like you said, that photo is also
Yes,
like
dude.
really disturbing. It really does sell it that
And
like,
then
wait, is this
it's a
real?
little bit like low quality, so you
Hmm.
can't really see the details on the fucking monster.
Yeah.
So it sort of gives you the like the appearance that it's real, like it's like you're not sure
Hmm.
what it's made of. I'm pretty sure if you see like in person, it's not gonna be as intimidating, but
Yeah.
on the fucking picture, and then you start reading the details about it, and that's creepy, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
It says is to be kept in a locked container at all times. When personnel must enter, yeah, because they describe like the how to like approach
Like
the
how to
creature,
beat it and
how to
stuff.
beat
Yeah.
it and everything, how to contain it. Yeah,
Hmm.
that was a cool thing. I'm surprised they haven't made like a fucking movie about like SCP Foundation, because I think that will make a really like a movie. I don't know.
Huh. Did I? Yeah, I remember that one. Hmm. Yeah, and that's also another one that like I feel like the videos and like the photos are probably more more famous than the actual like story. Um, but yeah, like because .exe stories also like kind of took off, and I do think it was because like Sonic is the one that really like pushed it. Um, and they did the same thing like that I had mentioned earlier with the Mario, the Legend of Zelda, that they modified the game in an emulator to make it resemble the story. Someone did a modified, hacked version of Sonic the Hedgehog to make it fit the story, and and I think it's like it's playable. you can go online, download it right now, and play it for yourself. Now, the game critic in me will tell you don't do it because the game's not good. But in terms of like, expanding like this horror story, it is interesting in that
Mm.
there is like a physical piece of media that you can try out. And that's the thing. It's like, oh well, you could do it to prank your friend. You can't prank your friends with this shit. They will immediately know they're not playing Sonic the
Yeah.
Hedgehog. It's not like what's it called, Doki Doki Literature Club, where
Oh
that
yeah.
one you can for sure prank somebody with that one. Have them
Yeah.
sit down and be like, "Hey, play this cute little game," and then they're like, "What the fuck is this?" Yes. Like the only thing that'll give it away is the warning that shows up at the beginning, but just distract them when the warning comes out. Just be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, bro, can you check this shit out?" And then just hit the next button when they're not looking, and then boom, there you go. And then have them.
I wanna make a friend play that game, and then like right when you're about to see that scene, I'm gonna be like, hey, just wait a minute, hang in there.
Oh man, for people that don't get the joke,
Yeah.
yeah, for people
And
that don't get the joke, how about just play the fucking game? Like
yeah, and if even if you don't want to play it, I will recommend to go watch the Game Grumps
Game
playthrough.
Grumps. Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, good shit.
Yeah.